Hey, one rare time where we have to do back-to-back classes. Today is going to be another long class. If we made good time like yesterday, perhaps we will have time for questions and answer. Today we are doing Shankara and Vijnana. Just a quick review of yesterday. Yesterday we were doing Sanya. So actually, it's not because it's just yesterday. I assume that most of you will remember what we covered. But just to recap very quickly, I emphasize quite extensively that the spiritual practice has to start with right view. Essentially, that is sanya, which means our sanya, we need to consolidate our understanding and we need to drill it into our mind, the noble truths, the Eightfold Paths, drill it in so much that it becomes part of sanya, as opposed to all your other habits and instincts that have been accumulated over the many long years of our life, our current life, possibly previous lives also. But we want to focus in this life, as much as we can, we want to consolidate understanding of the noble truths so that it goes deep into our subconscious. It forms essentially part of sanya. And we will have to introduce into our daily life certain habits that will ensure that our sanya stays on the Dhamma track. One of those daily reflections that I recommended highly, and in fact, I would stress the importance of it, is the 5 themes. AM 5.57 themes. Growing old, falling sick, dying, separated from loved ones, power of karma. Those are the key themes that, if as much as possible in your daily life, you should reflect on them. Make it a point to do it at a consistent time so that your mind automatically drift in that general direction every day. And I also introduce very quickly the reflections that the monks do. And theirs, it's a little bit more chim than our 5 thematic reflections. For them, they have to go into reflecting on how to turn their mind away from pleasures, delights, and gratification. Okay? Okay. Give me a minute. I'm not sure why. Okay. Hey, guys, you did pin the date, the BF, right? The group.
Yep.
I don't know why I'm not seeing you guys leh. Okay, never mind. Now I'm seeing it. Okay. Today we are going into Shankara and Vijnana. Shankara, I will explain in a short while. So typically learning outcome today, identify, differentiate, explain Shankara Vijnana, and to apply whatever understanding that you gather from this class to be able to apply in your daily life, to begin to recognize it in your daily life, and you learn to mitigate, to moderate, to act with restraint, and in so doing, reduce dukkha. We are also looking at relevant suttas, and hopefully you will remember them. Okay. So, what are Shankaras? By now, you have an impression that Shankara is narratives thinking, right? I mean, you may have this idea that Shankara it's all about just about volitional thought formation. I prefer to use the word construction. The idea of Shankara is coming together. When they are separate and they come together. So you see the prefix some together, kara, coming, doing, making, things coming together. Okay. So different writers have used different translations. I know that Ajahn Tanisaro uses the word fabrications. Bhikkhu Bodhi used the word volitional thought formation. That's his choice. I use Bhikkhu Bodhi's translation, but usually when I explain, I will add this point that the meaning of the term actually means coming together. Bhikkhu Bodhi himself said English rendering will be imprecise. That means not good enough lah. So bear this idea in mind, okay? And I'm just going to say that if you look at the word and how it is used in the canon, it appears broadly in three different types of doctrinal contexts. One is one of 5 aggregates. 2, it also means all conditioned things. When the Buddha says all conditioned phenomena, he sometimes uses the word Shankara. And the third one, which is, if you're familiar with Paticca Samuppada, dependent origination, you will also know this is the second link in the 12-fold formula, okay? We will not go into 3 today. We'll deal mainly with 1 and 2. Okay. Now, how did the Buddha use the term? In this particular context, Shankara Kanda, it means the aggregate of Shankara. And of the 5 aggregates, the aggregate of Shankara, he defined it like this. And what bhikkhus are Shankara? There are these 6 classes of volition. Volition regarding form, volition regarding sound, orders, taste, tactile objects, mental phenomena. With the arising of contact, there is the arising of Shankara. So in this particular context, he's talking about the choices we make with regards form, sound, taste, smell, touch, mental phenomena, coming together of these experiences. Okay. And then he also said, what and why do you call them Shankara? Because they construct the condition. So again, the idea here is coming together. Okay, coming together. Coming together of form, coming together of feeling, coming together of perception, coming together of volitional formation, coming together of consciousness. So the idea here is Shankara underpins every coming together. Can you see that? Shankara refers to volitional thought formation. Shankara is also about coming together. So everything that we experience leads back to Shankara. Okay? So there's a part in you that go, how do I understand it? Don't try too hard. Just hear the word coming together, volitional formation. Just hear those words first. At least minimally have that understanding. Okay? As we go on in the class, your understanding, you may have that aha moment, that brief aha moment that allows you to go, oh, I get it. There isn't a good English word that explains this term properly. There's no one word to replace this word. So try and get it into your mind that this, So think of from nothing comes something. It must come together and form. So Shankara has that meaning. From nothing forms something, comes together and form. So one of the most obvious form of Shankara is thinking. Can you see that? First, there were no thoughts, then thoughts are formed. Okay? You understand, huh? First, there are no thoughts, and then thoughts are formed. First, there is no feeling, then feeling is formed. It must come together. Coming together. Okay? Now, very quickly, just 5 minutes. I don't need a lot of time to do this. 5 minutes on site and online. If Eileen would like to form some group, I want you all to just look at this term. I'm the owner of karma, heir to karma, and so on and so forth. I want you to look at this term and I want you to discuss. I want you to discuss this term, this statement. What do you understand by the statement? Okay, go. Can you hear me, Eileen? Eileen.
Okay, all back.
I can't. I was talking to you. You didn't hear me, Meme. We're good to go.
Yes,
Can
good
we
to
see some
go.
answers?
Okay, you're gonna start. Anyone from which group? One from each group. Thank you.
Check, check. Hi, Matthew. Hi, Sister Bay.
Hi.
Hey. Yeah. So my understanding or our understanding is that it's a culmination of our khandas, right? The L of my karma. Like for example, our lived experiences through our senses, and then we identify with whatever's happening through our senses, through our thoughts, and then we perceive things, and then we attach to that perception. And then for example, we like doing good, right? So we attach to it through perception, and then we continue to do it. And then when we continue to do it, we become less attached to our sense of self. And then it becomes an understanding that comes with us through our lives. Something
Okay.
like that.
Okay.
I think you're supposed to answer that question here.
I am.
Okay. Then as my resort,
I don't know what resort means in this case.
sometimes it's translated as refuge.
Or refuge. Yeah, lor. So if I do good things, then I have that habit that helps me create conditions that are not so much suffering. Maybe I'll be as a human or in the heavens. My mind is not so suffering. There's more peace.
Okay. Anyone else? It's pretty good. A pretty good shot at the answers. Anyone else? Anyone else wants to try?
The next group.
Okay, maybe I'll give it a go.
Okay.
We know that for every action there will be there will be consequence, right? So like what we think, what we say, what we do will have consequence. So in that sense, we become the owner. We have a say at what we want to do, what we want to think about, what we want to say. So the owner part of the karma is the decision, the intention that we make.
Correct.
And the consequence we have to bear, right? So that part kind of say we are the heir of karma because of the consequence. And then origin means wherever I am now, whatever state I'm in now, is a consequence of what I've decided to do, to think. So that kind of explain where my starting point now is actually also as a result of my past. And then relative is the one we struggle a bit. We say that yeah, it's very close to us. So it's kind of mirror us, or we mirror our karma, that kind of thing. And we thought, yeah, knowing the relationship, we can kind of seek protection by making all the right decision, making all the right intention.
Okay.
Yeah.
Very good, very good. I think you all kind of hit around broadly a correct track, the correct direction. Let me just help kind of help you guys consolidate this understanding a little bit. By the word owner, it means you make decision, as Darren quite correctly pointed out, you have a say. Owner implies you have the ability to make choices. This is within your abilities. Heir is all the little decisions that you have made will leave conditions in the mind. So if you constantly choose to do good, all those wholesome choices you make leads to a certain habit, leads to a certain set of internal, we're not talking about external, all those internal ambience is the result of your choices earlier. You understand? If you make wholesome, beneficial choices constantly, the ambience, the environment in your mind has to lean towards joy, happiness, lightness. If your mind leans towards unwholesome mental states, you create that habit, then the internal ambience of the mind leans towards negative. So what you choose becomes what you have to bear. You have to live with that. Heir means you're living with the choices you have made. Okay? Karma as your origin. So Darren said that you are you will rise from, I mean, you what you are now is because of the past. To some extent, it means going forward, your next set of choices does sit on the ambience of the current, 对不对? Born of whatever is here. So there is there's a sequential thing. There has to be. And right now, at every point is the point of starting. At every point, the point of starting has to sit on whatever is there. Okay? As your relative sometimes is, they call it bond, B-O-N-D, bond. Because your habits are formed, this is what you're familiar with. Relative, you're familiar with it. This is a habit. But then at the same time, because karma is not static, nothing is static. Your mind keeps changing. The conditions keep changing. Because of that, you have a chance of amendments. You can make new wise decisions, which then prove to be your protection. There is a chance of change. If karma is static, if you're born like this, you must die like this, then you have no choice. It cannot be, it's no longer a refuge. It's no longer a chance for you to break out. So karma can also be, because of its very nature, it changes. So here in this, to me, you can look at it positive in a beneficial, helpful way, or you can be deterministic, which is also your habits and instincts. So some people, typically, they tend to look at it this as more deterministic. Who I am today rests on the habits that I form. So it's very hard for me to break out. I tend to look at it more positive. I have reached this point because of certain habits. If I can change the habits, I can break out of this point. So I tend to look at it as more positive rather than more deterministic. Okay? So Shankara actually is karma. Shankara is karma. The conscious and deliberate choices expressed through body, speech, and mind affects the conditions of your mind. 对不对? And karma is about habits, about latent tendencies. So karma as my origin are your latent tendencies. But with effort, with discipline, with faith, I didn't write it down here, with faith, you can change it. You must believe that change is possible. You must believe that you are owner, you can make choices. The question is, how open did you keep that door for the Dhamma to come in and rewire you? If Dhamma becomes a common visitor in your house, in your mental house, then you, this owner, is shifting for the better. You are determined with determined effort and discipline. I am going to weave the Dhamma understanding and knowledge into my regular habits. This is what you're saying. Then make it come true so that you are heir to the Dhamma and not heir to akusala karma and habits of the past. Dhamma to become the origin for you, origin of karma. Dhamma is what you are familiar with. Dhamma becomes your refuge. Shift the words. This is how you do it. So rather than I'm the owner of karma, say the Dhamma, I am using Dhamma to start my journey so that my karma rests on a wholesome space. Okay? And then you are heir to the Dhamma training. Dhamma becomes your origin. Dhamma becomes your relative. Dhamma becomes your refuge. You can do it. But it will take effort, faith, effort, discipline, the resilience. Faith, sabda, you need sabda for this journey. Okay? Okay. So, the Buddha said, your mental focus on a daily basis keeps it in the right space. Thoughts are Shankara. Thoughts are for sure Shankara. So here the Buddha said, Bhikkhu, do not think evil, unwholesome thoughts. And they are sensual thoughts. This is translation. It should be sensuous thoughts. Thought of ill will, thought of harming. Why? Those thoughts are unbeneficial, irrelevant to the fundamentals of the holy life. They do not lead to nibbida. This revulsion is nibbida, sometimes translated as disenchantment. They do not lead to nibbida. They do not lead to viraga, to cessation, peace, direct knowledge, enlightenment, nibbana. Let me explain it a little bit differently here. Thoughts, karma, okay? Thoughts. They are a key component of your daily reality. If you allow your thoughts to lean towards sensual pleasure, to just willy-nilly give in to your anger, then the habits to be mean, to take revenge, thought of harming, right? It's to be mean, to get your back at someone, to give vent to your anger. Now, I must say, you think that, oh, I never do these things. I am not a mean person. I don't do these things. When you're angry, you go complain to a friend. You la at your friend. What's your intent? I'm venting. You vent for what? You vent to win people on your side, or actually you're harming his reputation, or you're giving in to that ill will, and the result is you undertake some action that actually causes harm to people, to them, to yourself. Okay? So this is like, if your mind is driven by emotions, the mind will automatically lean towards sensuous thoughts, leans towards ill will, leans towards getting your back, retaliating. Okay? And he said, don't let your mind drift there. If your mind keeps parking itself, if the mind parks itself in these kind of thoughts, these are unwholesome, unskillful thoughts. When it does that, it can't see Dhamma. That's what it means by saying, does not lead to revulsion and nibbida, viraga, to nirodha. It doesn't lead to all these things. It means these thoughts prevent your mind from leading towards the Dhamma. If you allow your mind to keep going back to recalling agitations or sensuous pleasures, if you allow your mind to keep doing those things, the mind cannot lean towards Dhamma. When it doesn't lean towards Dhamma, it will not become disenchanted with sense delights, disenchanted with the allures of daily life. It cannot. It continue to be fascinated, to be obsessed with the shining things of the world. It continues that way. So if we say that we are practitioner, at least try to keep the mind peaceful and away from strong emotions. Because strong emotions will trigger all these kinds of thoughts. If it goes into strong emotions, it will go into sensuous thoughts, ill will, and harming. Try and keep the mind in the more wholesome space, which is what we said yesterday. Not holding on, not getting upset and angry, and therefore no thoughts of harming, peaceful. If you can keep your mind along that space, in that space, then the mind will lean towards not getting too attached to the sense pleasures of the world. When it doesn't get too obsessed, too attached, it becomes less passionate. This passion no longer passionate about the world. And then at that point, you will experience cessation means a cessation of craving. If it's less attached to the shining objects of life, it becomes the reduction in attachment to craving. So that's how you get peace. And that's how the mind then become, this direct knowledge is experiential knowledge of Dhamma. It's experiential knowledge of Dhamma. You know for yourself the noble truth and how it works. And in your own, in our own little ways, every moment, every time the mind gets into a state of cessation of dukkha, cessation of craving, at any time, it has no craving, it feels the peace. At that point, you have a moment of awakening to the nibbana. Okay? That's why, look, if you want to think, that the Buddha is saying, when you think like this. If your mind, if there is a Shankara, his advice is you Shankara towards the noble truths. So you say, how this is suffering? What is this is suffering? When you have attachment, you tell yourself, I said, right? What are you attached to? What are you craving? Note that. See that. Go back to the noble truth. Oh, I am craving for sense pleasure. And ask yourself, can put down or not? Can put down. Okay, I don't need this lah. Then you put it down. At the point when you put it down, you experience relief, cessation of dukkha, cessation of craving. You feel the relief. And then you tell yourself, this is how it's done. It's a reminder of how your mind arrives at experiencing a relief from craving. And it's a reminder. So this stanza here, this is dukkha. Actually, in daily life, every time you experience unpleasant vedana, I said before, you ask yourself, what is it you're craving? What is it you're wanting? Then you must tell yourself, there, dukkha, because of craving, because of wanting. What can I put down? What can I moderate? What can I be content with here and now? If you have an answer there, then you tell yourself, cessation of craving, cessation of dukkha. Remember the steps. Weave this into your daily life. You can do this. You are consolidating in the mind, in your sanya, consolidating in sanya, the link between dukkha, craving, cessation of craving. You are building understanding. You are building your affinity with Dhamma. Okay? Okay, moving on. This is the second set. Okay, I repeat. Hang on. This is the first set. Okay? This is the second set. These are different suttas. 56.7 thoughts, SN's 56. This is 56.8 reflections. Do not reflect in an evil, unwholesome way. These are some of the habits. The world is eternal, it's not eternal. The world is finite, not finite. Eternal is time, finite is space. That's the difference. Does the world last forever? Is there an end to the world? Is the world does the world stretch? Is this cosmological space, does it stretch forever? Infinite, or is it finite? The soul and the body the same, the soul one thing, the body another. The Buddha, where does he go after death? A whole series of them. He said, don't speculate. Don't speculate. Why? Because all these speculations, you have no answer. They are not helpful for you to gain insight into the Dhamma. All these questions are not helpful. Then why did the Buddha specifically talk about these questions? You must remember, in ancient time, all these monks, most of the people who left home life to to go into homelessness, not necessarily just monks. It could be the ascetics, it could be the brahmanas, it doesn't matter. So most of these guys are very much caught up with, they're very caught up with philosophical debates. And these are the kind of philosophical debates that they have. In our time, you will have other kinds of questions. Do I exist? Do I not exist? Who am I? What am I? What's the meaning of life? All these will come under this. They're all speculations with no results. You can speculate until the cow comes home. So the Buddha said they're not helpful. Don't go around and around all these funny questions. Focus on the noble truth. That's right there. Don't speculate. So all of you who ask about what is the soul, what is anatta, all these things, right? Stop it. Go back to the noble truths. You figure out the noble truths, you see the noble truths properly, the answer becomes self-evident. You cannot figure out anatta from thinking. Anatta has a whole series of issues. And you can only you can only experience it, realize it, understand it when your Dhamma understanding is consolidated properly. Okay? Okay, moving on. Oh, the kopi moment. I would like to invite, we will have, how much time do we have? We can have a 10 minutes break here because it gets harder and harder. We can get 10 minutes break here, but can I also invite you all on site to actually reflect on some of the things that were said about? Which slide would you like me to go into so that we don't look at this picture of kopi, or we can look at some other slides? This one? You want this one? Or you want this one? Any preference? No preference? Alain, I can't hear you. How to both? You can only have
I'm
one.
asking them to choose one. Yeah, they said both. Which
Cannot.
one now? This one? Take picture if you want to see both. This one. Okay, they said this one.
Okay, go ahead. Take a look at it. 10 minutes. Okay? So fast you recording. Are we good?
I think a few more in the pantry.
Okay, sure.
I think we can start first.
Oh, okay. Sure. Everyone's back? Is everyone back? Do we know?
Check.
If you're back, I can start.
One more in the toilet.
Huh? So how? Should I wait?
Oh, back. Thank you.
Okay. Thinking. The mind talks a lot. And the Buddha has some had some useful advice on some of the things that we can do to try and stop the unhelpful and beneficial thoughts, thinking. Here he said, let's just read from the beginning first. A monk committed to the higher mind, which is essentially samadhi. Higher mind usually refers to samadhi. should focus on 5 foundations of meditation from time to time, and these are the 5 that he talks about. This is not Satipatthana, it's just different type of things that they should focus on. So sometimes the monk leans towards unhelpful, unskillful thoughts, which are driven by Lobha Dosa Moha. That's Lobha Dosa Moha, okay? So the first thing is to focus on some other foundation of meditation connected with skillful. Some other. So instead of focusing on unskillful thoughts, focus on skillful ones. If you ask me, what are the skillful ones? Then it will be all those objects that the Buddha had taught, like breathing. So breathing is a skillful practice, watching breathing, or faith, Buddha Dhamma Sangha, or the Brahma Vihara, Metta, Metta, Karuna, Mudita, Upekkha, or on 32 parts. Those are the skillful ones, okay? Those are the skillful objects. So he said, so number 1 is you shift. Instead of focusing on the Lobha Dosa Moha type of thoughts, go and get one object you are familiar with, put the attention there. Example, you want to sit, but you are agitated. Go watch the body, watch the contact point of the body, feel the body relax, slowly ease the attention to breathing. That's using breathing to try and dislodge the agitation. And some people will say, not enough. Okay, sorry, before I go on, let's read this. When the bad thoughts are given up and they come to an end, the mind becomes still internally, settles, unifies means comes together, and then it goes into samadhi. It's like a deft carpenter or apprentice who knock out or extract a large peg with a finer peg. So you dislodge and you replace, okay? The second one, say, examine the drawback of those thoughts. Meaning you have an unskillful thought, you're agitated, the mind keeps going around the thought. Don't look at the thought and the agitation, look at problems connected with those thoughts. And here, look at the analogy he used. It's like a person, young, youthful, fond of adornment. You're going to hang a carcass of a snake, dog, or human around your neck. You'd be horrified. So he wants you to be horrified by the unskillful thoughts rather than enjoy, have perverse delight in those unskillful thoughts. He's saying, be horrified. Just know that these thoughts are not helpful. They are problematic and they can give you a lot of problems. Tell yourself that, and maybe you will stop. He says, maybe you will stop. But you're very stubborn, refuse to stop. So third one, ignore. Ignore, forget about them. So some of you will say, how to ignore? They are so strong. Okay, he's got another one for you. Slow down, go upstream and look at thought formation. Don't go into the object of the thought. Go upstream and look at thought formation, the speed at which thinking comes together. Look at thinking process. Okay? Do you want me to read through these? You see, this one says, suppose there was a person with good eyesight, undesirable sight comes into range, they close their eyes or look away. So this one literally means ignore. Next one says, as they do so, it's suppose a person is walking quickly. They say, why am I walking so quickly? Why do I slow down? So they slow down And he think, why am I walking slowly? Why don't I stand still? So they stand still. Then he say, why am I standing still? Why don't I sit down? Then they sit down. And they think, why am I sitting? Why don't I lie down? They lie down. So they reject successfully coarser posture and adopt more subtle ones. What it means is you look at the thought, thinking. Then you just look at thinking and you say, calm down. So the thinking process, don't look at the object of the thinking, just look at the thinking process. Then the thinking slows down. And you say, why so fast? Slow some more. Actually, personally, I do this and it stops. I just look at thought, then thought stops. Okay? You look at thought, right? What's all these thoughts? It will stop. For me, it will just stop. And then nothing happens. So if you're asking me, can it be done? Yes, it can be done. Just look at thinking process. Thinking. In fact, to help you, you will say thinking. Okay, this is thinking, and then thinking will stop. It's actually very fast. This is helpful. The last one is the hardest. In my mind, it's the hardest. Use your body. Teeth clench, tongue press against roof, squeeze and squash, torture mind with mind. I find this the hardest. And then how do you do it? You create an effect. You're sitting, right? This because it's meditating. So you're sitting, then thoughts come. You clench your teeth and tongue press against the roof. You're creating a bodily effect so that the mind shifts and then the thought stops. I find this very hard. Like, this just seems so rough. For me, I cannot do this one. It's just so rough. I don't need to do this one. So you decide for yourself which one can work. Now, can I suggest, I'm going to flip back. You're going to take pictures, okay? Take pictures starting from here. Take a photo shot because you're going to discuss which one works for you. Take a shot first. Now, I can't see whether you are finished. Can some of you raise your hand so I know you're done? I'll flip to the next one. Okay.
All done?
Eileen, help me, okay?
Yeah. Second one. Two done only. Okay, all done, huh? Third one. All done. Fourth one. Last person down there. Done or not? Fourth. Okay.
Okay.
Okay, fifth one. Okay. Thank you.
This is your challenge. I want you to break out into groups. This one we will create the breakout groups. Please go to your groups. You reflect on the 5 methods. You talk to each other. What have you used in the past? And how did it work for you? We take 10 minutes for this exercise. I say leaning again there. What it means is no more other breaks. Okay. I trust that we all had a good discussion. We will continue. I actually have no idea how many slides I'm looking at. Okay, you wait. Okay. I screen. Okay. We are done with Shankara. We're going into consciousness, Vijnana. There are just a few slides on consciousness, or on Vijnana. I want to use the word Vijnana as opposed to the English word consciousness, because the English word consciousness carries all kinds of idea. So let's just focus on how the Buddha used the word vijnana. What bhikkhu is vijnana? There are these 6 classes of vijnana. Eye vijnana, ear vijnana, nose, tongue, body, mind. You notice, he's now using the object, the sense base. He's not talking about the form. He's talking about the object out there. He's talking about the sense base itself. The eye, the ear, the nose, tongue, body, and the mind. Because the vijnana sits there. Okay? Perception is on those objects out there. But vijnana is on the item, the parts, your body parts. Okay? And this is called vijnana. With the arising of nama rupa, there is the arising of vijnana. Don't worry about that nama rupa one. Okay? And he says that which cognizes, knows, and is aware. And then you go like, don't quite understand. It's okay. I will move on and explain. This is a critical point. Someone might say, apart from form, apart from feeling, apart from sanya, apart from shankara, I will make known the coming and going of vijnana, is passing away and rebirth of vijnana, its growth, increase, and expansion of vijnana. Buddha said that's impossible. Which means to say from this, this is very conclusive. There is no such thing as a vijnana separate from the other aggregates. I repeat, here he said it very categorically. There is no consciousness separate. There is no vijnana separate from the other aggregates. Feeling, perception, volitional formation, form. There is no vijnana separate from these 4 other aggregates. I repeat, sorry, I've repeated, okay? And he went on to say, vijnana engaged with form, based upon form, established upon form, with a sprinkling of delight, it comes to grow, increase, and expand. It grows because of delight, but it must be engaged with form. And then it goes on. Or vijnana might engage with feeling, might engage with perception, might engage with volitional formation. With a sprinkling of delight, it comes to growth, increase, and expand. This segment, forget about the next set. This segment is very important. Vijnana does not exist separate from the other aggregates. When there is awareness, it has to be aware of form, feeling, perception, volitional formation. When there is awareness, it has to be aware of that form. Okay? And it grows because of delight. You enjoy it, it will grow. Okay? If a bhikkhu has abandoned lust for form, the abandoning of the lust with the abandoning of lust as the basis, with the abandoning of lust, the basis is cut off. There is no support for the establishing of consciousness, of vijnana. If he has abandoned lust for the feeling element, the perception element, the volitional formation element, the consciousness element, the vijnana element, with the abandoning of lust, the basis is cut off. There is no support for the establishing of vijnana. Do you understand this? I thought it's quite self-explanatory. Do you understand this? Isn't it beautiful? So what is it that we are letting go of? You're not letting go of consciousness. You're letting go of form, attachment to form, attachment to Vedana, attachment to Sanya, attachment to Shankara. You abandon these four. When you let go of the attachment to these four, consciousness, vijnana cannot stand. It's over. Do you understand? Go, Darren.
Question.
Yes.
So then Arahan has kind of abandoned all this, then they still have consciousness.
Becoming, lor. There's no more becoming. This is about becoming.
All it's about becoming. But
Yeah.
they still have consciousness, like, despite the fact that they have.
No. They will have, as long as life is there, as long as the form is there, they have Vedana, they have Sanya, they have Shankara, they have Rupa. Because of these four, there is vijnana in life. But because there is no attachment to Vedana, to Rupa, Vedana, Sanya, Shankara, because there's no attachment there, when this body is over, there is no more establishment of it's no more rebirth.
Also not when
Not when they are alive. When they are alive, because the body is still there, the Vedana and Sanya, they will have Vedana, but no Vedana of grasping.
okay.
There is Vedana, there is sensation. There is still Sanya for pleasant, unpleasant. They are not robots.
Okay.
They do have sensation of pleasant, unpleasant.
Mm-hmm.
So you recall there is this Gandhara, the musician, the heavenly musician, who went to play music for the Buddha, and he asked the Buddha, nice or not? The Buddha said, very nice. So there is pleasant sensation. But because of how they perceive Vedana, he has no attachment to pleasant sensation. There is no attachment to unpleasant sensation. There's no attachment to neutral sensation. There's no attachment to Vedana. So basically, they are like the rock. The Vedana will crest over the rock and then dissipate. It's nothing. No attachment. Okay?
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Okay, shall we move on?
Yes, please.
What one intends, what one plans, whatever one has a tendency towards, this becomes the basis for the maintenance of vijnana. Okay, I will stop at this line. You go back to what one intends, what one plans. What are they? Shankara. Okay? Shankara. Whatever one has a tendency towards, what are they? Sanya. Okay? You Shankara, you kena Sanya. Becomes your Sanya. This becomes a basis for the maintenance of vijnana. This is the cause for rebirth. When there is a basis, there is a support for the establishing of vijnana. When vijnana is established and comes to growth, then there is a production of future renewed existence. If one does not intend and one does not plan, but one still has tendency, so there's no Shankara. I mean, not fresh Shankara, okay? But you have tendencies, which is your Sanya. Then this becomes a basis for the maintenance of vijnana. And when there is a basis, there is a support for the establishing of vijnana. Get it? Does this make sense, everyone? I give you a moment of reading through this on your own. My title is How Volition perpetuates Vijnana through age, through lives. I give you a moment to just reflect on the stanza. I'm checking my slides. Okay. I will take question from the floor, not online yet. Any question?
No.
We can move on.
Yes.
I am proposing that we don't do a break. Okay? Shall we move on? Just move on.
Yeah.
Paraphrasing the Buddha here, this slide I've used before in my much earlier lecture slide. He said, the minds of living beings are very diverse, but regardless, whatever that he produces, it is still only Rupa, Vedana, Sanya, Shankara, Vijnana. Remember this particular one that says he walks with the aggregates, he sits with the aggregate, he lies down, lies down with the aggregate. The aggregate is all him and the aggregate like that all the time. And that's the reality. This is the reason why I spent 4 lectures on aggregates. Okay. And I'm going to add this. It's not in the slides. I'm just adding this. When you talk about eye consciousness, ear consciousness, nose consciousness, and so on, it's all aggregates also. It's all aggregates there. Eye consciousness, form, right? Eye consciousness, form perception. You see something, you recognize it, that's Sanya. You form thoughts around it, that's Shankara. Your eye, the organ, comes into contact with an object out there, you have sight. Eye, sight. You have a consciousness. Straight away in that contact, it triggers Vedana. So your feelings are there. The aggregates, 6 sense bases, they are 2 sides of the same coin, reality. Whether you focus on the aggregates or you focus on the 6 sense bases, it is still reality. Okay? So in the 6 sense bases is the aggregates of grasping in the 6 sense bases. This is what you need to become acquainted with in your daily life. So you sit quietly on the, say you're taking MRT or taking not the, don't know what line, but the line, those other lines that are working. You're taking an MRT, then you sit there and you hear sound, you see sight. If you can, you flip it around and you hear sound, note Vedana, note Sanya, see whether the Shankara is obvious to you, experience it. You should, on a daily basis, get yourself very much acquainted with the aggregates in the 6 sense bases. Okay? That's the foundation. Those are critical before we go into the tilakkhana, 3 characteristics. I repeat, next week, we're going into tilakkhana, the 3 characteristics. By then, you all must be expert on the aggregates and the 6 sense bases. Okay? Okay, everyone? Yeah? Okay. Now, be prepared for more session. It gets, this part is a bit tricky. Okay? Wait. The uninstructed worldling. I've explained this before. Uninstructed means the regular person who has not have Dhamma, who don't know Dhamma, not have exposure to Dhamma, or even if you're Buddhist and you have some exposure, you hear go in there, go out. So Dhamma didn't stay long enough to become something in there. You guys are no longer uninstructed, you are instructed because you understand. If you sit down there and you hear but you don't understand, you are semi-instructed. Lambu lah, lambu, L plate driver. Okay. But if you had been listening and you have been paying attention and you've been internalizing, then you're instructed, but still whirling. Why whirl? I assume you are whirling. I mean, I don't know if there are some others there, but let's just assume that you're whirling. Whirling means beings who are caught up with the sensual pleasures of life. Sensual pleasures, and both inside and outside. You are caught up with the world, hence whirling. Okay. So the uninstructed whirling habit is to regard form as self. Self-possessing form, form in self, self in form. Form as self together. Self possessing form. So the self has form and feeling and whatever. Form in self, self in form. He regards feeling as self, and it goes on. Feeling as self, self as possessing feeling, feeling in self, self in feeling. And Vedana, and Sanya, and Shankara, and Vijnana, all like that. This is how identity view comes to be. Forgot the word be. Comes to be. Identity view. The sense of the self. And it's a view. He used the word ditti. Sakkaya ditti. It's an identity view. Okay. And as long as you own these 5 aggregates, you identify with the 5 aggregates, you see the self in the 5 aggregates, you have an identity. Okay. I will continue first and then we can come back and reflect on this. This is another explanation he had. It is by clinging, Ananda, that the notion I am occurs. Not without clinging. But clinging to what? Clinging to form, feeling, perception, volitional formations, and vijnana. That I am occurs. So first, let's go back to this one. This one says you identify. You regard form as self, self as possessing form, form in self, self in form. And you have this set in all your aggregates. So one is a view that you perceive this two as aligned. Form, the aggregates, and the self. The second one says it's clinging to your aggregates. So when you cling to your aggregates, the I am occurs, happens. So the issue here is clinging. The first one there is identifying with something. They're together. So I always say you cling to the aggregates. When you cling to your aggregates, you will identify with the aggregates. Very, very dry. Give me a minute. We suffer because we identify with the aggregates, we own them, obsess and worry about them. How is one afflicted in body and afflicted in mind? So he identifies with it. He regards form as self as form, and so on and so forth. And then he lives obsessed by the notion, I am form, form is mine. Three things. Mind, I, self. They are together, but they are different parts. Mind is own. It's craving. I is identity. Mana, conceit. You identify something, you will compare. The last one is view. It's a view. The self, according to the Buddha, is a view. It's constructed. So the first one, mind, is instinct. It's ownership, it's territory, it's craving. It's instinctive. The second one, already you are mind making. Mind is habit, instinct, it sits on craving and attachment. The second one, I am, is an identity. You identify with something because you see it in a certain way. And that's where you start comparing. And the third one is a view. When you have these two, the first two together, in your mind, because of the attachment and the identity, it has to feel somewhere. You want to give it meaning. So you give it meaning by creating the sense of the self for it. The soul, to carry your ideas. It's wrong view, okay? With identity comes comparison, the notion of this is basically conceit, mana. So this is very cute. I ask you, I want you all to think of, use a term to describe yourself. Use an adjective to describe yourself. You don't have to tell me, you just think of an adjective. Let's say, the adjective is I'm generous, something like that, okay? And you identify with that. Okay, I like to be known as generous. When you have, or not generous, I like to be known as someone who gave dana, or I like to be known as someone who offered dana to sangha. I cook for sangha. Then when you identify like this, if you're not careful, you end up saying, my dana better than your dana. My cooking better than your cooking. So most of us are not chef. We don't really care about how our food tastes. But the ones who perceive themselves to be good cook, they care. Most of us, I was just teasing a friend the other day, most of us are not accountant. So you tell me, Sister Sylvia, you are poor with numbers. I will say, yeah. You go and tell that to an accountant. 对不对? So what you identify as becomes the source of your conceit. You will compare there. So those who are very sensitive, who lacks confidence, who wants to think well of all the time, they are in a lot of pain. Because they hope to be so many things, ma. Then they will identify so many things, ma. Then they will compare all over the place, lor. Okay? Get it? Okay, now, let me see, I'm just checking the slides. Whether I want to... Yes. There is going to be this session where I want a reflection moment. So may I suggest that you take pictures so that you can reflect well, properly. Okay? Take a picture of this slide. Take a picture of this slide. Okay? We are actually on track, you know. We're doing very well in terms of timing. Okay, I'm moving on. And then this slide. And then this slide. Okay. And then we take a moment to reflect. Because we have time, I suggest we do 10 minutes of this. Take your break along with this. Is there any other slides that you want me to flip to and you can take a look at it? Or this good enough? Now I want you to think about the notion of self. This is the beginning of we are now easing into the notion, the deity of self. I want you to reflect on what the Buddha said, how he said it, and then maybe sit quietly, reflect on the teaching, and then discuss amongst yourself to consolidate your understanding, or at least to help you remember what was said. And then you can start crafting your questions. And we have time today to answer them. Okay? Eileen, 10 minutes or 15 minutes? This one we can do it long. It's okay. We have time.
You have time? Okay. 15, 10 or 15? Say, quick. 15, okay.
Oh,
On site, say 15.
okay. Then we do 15
Okay.
minutes.
Break up to your rooms.
Break up to
Groups. The breakout room we will do as well.
yes.
To your groups.
We almost can't help but revel in the pleasure delighting in the aggregates. Seek, we welcome, we hold the delight in the aggregates. Okay, you look at the words now. Here, bhikkhu, one seeks delight, one welcomes, one holds, one remains holding. What is it that one seeks delight in? What is it that one welcomes, and what is it that one's holding? Seeking delight in form, welcome form, hold on to form. As a consequence, delight arises. Delight leads to clinging. With clinging as condition, existence comes to be. With existence as condition, birth. And then the whole lot starts. This is actually in Paticcasamuppada. It's one version of it. So when we seek delight, we welcome, we hold, seeking. So if you look at your mind, right, the mind habitually go out and look for things, look for experiences, go out or go in. It doesn't matter. It is toggling to look for delight. So when it looks, it will find, and then it will hold on to delight. And when you have that, and the delighting is in the aggregates. It's really in the aggregates. Okay? Here, the Buddha is saying that there comes a time when even the ocean dries up. But there is no making an end to dukkha for those beings roaming and wandering on, hindered by ignorance, fettered by craving. This is my favorite line. Hindered by ignorance and fettered by craving. What does it mean? Because we don't know better. We are ignorant of all the nature of reality, right? The uninstructed worldling, and even instructed worldling struggles with it, let alone uninstructed worldlings. We struggle because our mind has made certain assumptions about pleasure and about delight and how do we have happiness. The mind has made assumptions. Those assumptions are not helpful. They're not beneficial. They are even wrong. But no matter, it's such a habit, we continue to hold on to those assumptions. And we are ignorant. Ignorant of what? Ignorant of Dhamma. Ignorant of Dhamma. Or, to put it in another way, ignorant of the true, the ultimate nature of reality. Or to put it in another way, ignorant of the noble truths as the true driver, the real driver of rebirth, of daily experiences, of dukkha, of rebirth. We are ignorant of all these. Hindered because of the ignorance, you don't know how to make the right decision. Because of ignorance, we will constantly fall back on old habits and make the same old wrong, unhelpful, unbeneficial decisions. Because of ignorance, we are hindered. Ignorance is an obstacle. Fettered by craving. So you're tied, you're fettered, you're tied down by craving. Craving drives you. Craving drives us. So we have neither the capacity to make the right decision because we don't have the knowledge, nor the desire to make the right decision because we are fettered by craving. No will, no knowledge. Like that, how? Like that stuck, lor. Like that, we are stuck. So in this age of the Dhamma, in this period of the Dhamma, ignorance is no excuse. You have the guidance on the reality as it is. You have the guidance. You have the guidance on what we need to do to break out. So essentially, you're caught in the maze of life, of rebirth, samsara. But you have a guidebook. You have GPS. You're told what to do. The Buddha show you the guidance. Then we went, but we don't feel like doing it, lor. Whose fault is it? So it's like that, lah. So basically, we're in this state where we have the guidance. So we are no longer totally hindered by ignorance. We now have the odds on our side to walk out of this samsara. But we're not ready to let go. We're not ready to not give to moderate craving. We're not ready for that. We are not ready to give up delight. Then it's our craving. It's our fault, lor. Okay? It's what it means. He says the world, the physical world out there can change. And it will take, we know it takes a few more billion years for the ocean to dry up. We know that. But he's saying that with ignorance and with craving, hindered by ignorance, fettered by craving, you can't, even in the billion year, you cannot find your way out. That's how scary it is, okay? Okay, see? I told you. We're good to go. Today, Sunday, we can end a bit earlier. Questions? First, let's check. Earlier on, I asked you to look at identity. Are there any questions there? For identity.
Hi, sister. So, our group discussed about that. Sankara is the narrative, right? Okay. So Sankara, we think that Sankara is the one that's create the identity. So if we cut off Sankara, shouldn't there be no identity anymore?
Underlying tendencies. Embedded in your underlying tendencies is the notion of attachment. Attachment to the form, feeling, perception, rupa, vedana, sanya, shankara, vijnana. The underlying tendencies to be attached to those. When there is attachment to those, the identity arises. Okay? So even when there is no shankara, so you're very mindful, you're in the moment. At the point when you're very mindful and in the moment, and you're very peaceful, you're very quiet, at that point, there is no sense of self. Agree? When your samadhi is strong and you're very peaceful and you're very in the moment, at the point when there is this clear awareness of being in the zone, right? In that moment, actually at that point, there is no sense of self. Agree? For those of you who are into meditation, they are. Then when akusala arises, when someone say, like that called the zone meh? This called samadhi meh? Some of you get defensive and then it starts to fade away. The akusala arises. Do you still feel non-self? Or that is when the self starts to appear? So because we have underlying tendencies and our underlying tendencies tend towards akusala. I mean, both akusala, you both have. But the akusala ones will cause you to feel the self. At that point, you know, underlying tendencies are still there. Notion of the self as your sanya is still there. So it does require us to consciously and deliberately work at reducing, changing the narrative and reducing the sense of self. You've got to work at it still. Okay? Does that answer your question?
Yes, thank you, sister.
Okay.
Hi, Matthew here. So where does mindfulness come in? Is it mindfulness? Is it part of consciousness? Of where does mindfulness come from?
Mindfulness is still the aggregates all. Because you experience mindfulness, you will experience a relative sense of calm and peaceful. That's all pleasant. Then you recognize that in the state of mindfulness, this is a mindfulness state. So there is still the sanya. 对不对? And then your consciousness is, your vijnana is aware that sanya is like that, vedana is like that. Mindfulness is in that state, in that state. It's not separate. How do you know that it's mindfulness? You must feel it, right? You must recognize it, right? Recognizing it. So the state of mindfulness, your experience of mindfulness, is still, your aggregates are all involved in that. There's nothing is separate.
Because mindfulness is deliberate, right?
Yeah. Not necessarily deliberate. Mindfulness arises when you're holding on to nothing. If you're holding on to some, so let's say mindful of breathing, okay? It's just mindful of breathing. Then there is no desire, no craving. Actually, the mindfulness will settle there for a while. But as long as there is desire, as long as there's craving, the mindfulness will shake. It will then chase. It will start to move. Okay. It is conditioned because you have to place attention on an object. You placed it on whatever, body, vedana, the mind, the sense, the dhamma, on dhamma. You place attention on something. So it is conditioned. It still is conditioned. Okay? And in that sense, it is Shankara. Get it? Okay? Any more?
Oh, hello, sister. Just now we were talking about underlying tendencies, right? So what would be your advice to detect and deal with underlying tendencies, because it's very subconscious?
Very good question. You can assume that as long as you're human living in this world, you will have lobha, dosa, moha as underlying tendencies. You want to build alobha, adosa, amoha more. Build it up. Build contentment. So alobha is contentment, moderation. You build that up. Generosity. All this helps to reduce the lobha. Okay. Dosa, you want to build adosa, means no ill will. no anger. So how do you build that? How do you build a mental state that is diametrical opposite? It will be metta. It will be karuna, compassion. Generosity helps. You build mental states that gives you a sense of forgiveness, of kindness, of caring for another, that sort of giving. So that's why in the practice, we have to cultivate wholesome mental states, because the wholesome mental states are the nemesis of the unwholesome ones. Then when you build enough wholesome mental states, not build enough, wrong word. If you build and build until they mature, it becomes very natural for you. That with right view and right understanding, these two will work together to start to reduce, more correct to say, it starts wear away. They will start to wear away your underlying tendencies towards lobha, dosa, and moha. Okay?
Thank you.
Hi, Sister Sylvia. I have two questions. The first question is on the 5 methods to tackle unhelpful thinking. So for method 5, the one that you don't find very effective.
No, I didn't say not effective. I said I don't use it.
Sorry.
I don't use it because I find it hard for me.
Oh, understand. It's like torture mind with mind, right? So like for example, exercising is considered under method 5.
Yes, actually, it does seems to do that, because when you but when you're meditating, how do you exercise at the same time? Actually, those 5 methods are used for meditation in particular. In your daily life, if you're trying to tackle craving or desires, you should go back to the earlier one where the Buddha says you reflect on gratification, reflect on danger, reflect on escape. That one, that version. Why that version? Because typically, in order for you to enjoy, and you constantly go back to enjoyment, your mind tends to settle on pleasure, gratification, and delight. So if the mind keeps settling on gratification and delight, it cannot let go. It will hold on to. So you never stop at gratification. You go into danger and escape. Danger means I focus on what is problematic with that indulgence. I focus on that. I focus on the Vedana that comes about from the problem associated with the indulgence. Example, let's say drinking, you can recall the pain of vomiting, the pain of headache, the hangover, as opposed to the pleasure of the high. Focus on the pain, the vomiters all over your clothes, the embarrassment you will experience. You focus on that. Or let's say if you're looking at, I don't know, vaping. I don't know. Actually, I don't vape. I don't know what. Smoking, that one I know better. I don't smoke, but smoking, we know high risk, you are creating higher risk of lung cancer. So that's why go look at the picture of lung cancer. Keep looking at the box. Unfortunately, people don't look at the box. Go and look at the box. Go and you focus on danger. It takes away the pleasure. Focus on the pain. It takes away from the pleasure. Okay. And then the escape is the relief that comes from, and you must remember the taste of that release that comes, the relief that comes from not being attached anymore. So that one works for daily life in dealing craving. Okay. Your question is, does exercise count as the 5th one? Well, yeah, I suppose you can, but I'm not sure how that works. Because that 5 is actually dealing with the meditation part. So he says, if the monks, when you meditate and you keep thinking of the unwholesome mental states, then you cannot settle. The mind cannot settle. Whereas And you want to overcome those habits to lean towards the unwholesome and unskillful. These are the 5 methods you can use. Buddha uses the 5th method. We know that. Buddha uses the 5th method, which means push his tongue against the roof of the teeth, and clench his teeth and push the tongue against the roof. He uses that one. Okay.
Thank you for answering my first question. My second question is regarding Vijnana. The name
Vijnana.
Vijnana, sorry. You mentioned that Vijnana engaged with, based upon, established upon, form with a sprinkling of delight. Then it will come to grow, increase, and expand. So with the quote is a sprinkling of delight, right? Then what if it's I don't like aversion? Does Vijnana shrink?
It won't shrink. If you give me a minute. This is not done with delight. This is done as a desperate measure to stop coughing. Okay. If you are, this is the Buddha's words about sprinkling of delight and all. It is with regards to pleasure. But if you say, I don't like, you don't like is because it doesn't give you pleasure. But you're still seeking pleasure. It's just that you don't find pleasure here. So there is still seeking. You're now seeking for alternative to this object. Okay? The only way there is no growth is when you are neutral. Vedana-wise is neutral. But with understanding, it has to be neutral with understanding. Neutral with understanding, no attachment. Neutral without understanding, attachments will go elsewhere. You're still having attachment, but it's not on this object, it chases elsewhere. So that's why when people are, say, bored or restless, the sensation may be just a very mild, unpleasant. Because it's actually not intense pain, it's just like I'm bored. It's a bit unpleasant. But they're bored with neutral. I got nothing to do, I'm bored. So the neutral becomes unpleasant. That's how it becomes unpleasant. And then what do? They go find a way to relieve boredom. Like that. Okay? So, does that answer your question? You're okay? Okay. Okay, I think we should pay some attention to the one online. The onsite can start thinking. Online one first. Eileen?
Okay, one more on site. One more taken mic.
Just a quick one, sister. Because we're talking about the tendency to self, right? Does metta meditation actually encourages self? Because we always go with, may I be well and happy. There seems to be a differentiation between me and all beings.
Yeah, lor. But that's not how the Buddha taught metta. 对不对? Karaniya Metta Sutta was taught very differently. The correct way to do metta is to reflect on the practice, find joy in your practice, the joy of being on track with the Dhamma. So you feel the joy, you use that joy to say, because now I connect with others, I hope everyone will be fine. Because your joy, the joy that comes from reflecting on your own Dhamma, the purity of your own Dhamma practice, right? That one is very pure. That metta, that one, ada power, okay? That's the one that got class. That's the real metta that he taught. I honestly don't know how the conventional version has come about. And that one, you're right. Not only yourself, my family and my loved ones and my enemies, like all over the place. I don't know how that one came about. If I see it in the sutta somewhere, I will remember, really, it was taught by Buddha like that. Cannot be. I've never seen it. I have not seen it in any of the Anguttara because I've gone cover to cover. Anguttara, Samyutta, Majjhima, they're not there. This one cannot be in Digha Nikaya. So in the four ancient texts, they're not there. I don't know where they came from. Okay? Okay. Online.
Online, let me see. Dear Sister Sylvia, in the zone of Samadhi, just awareness. That awareness does not arise from delight with form, sound, taste, smell, or body, right? The awareness arises from what? Contact.
Huh? I don't understand.
Okay. Next question.
I don't understand this question.
Also,
When you have an awareness, okay, in Samadhi, there is this awareness. I understand what you're saying about the awareness. But this awareness is aware of what? Of mind, lor. You're still aware of mind. And the sensation there, if it is pleasant, it's pleasant. That's a Vedana. If you know, if you recognize that, oh, this is mine, or I recognize, even if there is knowing of knowing, it's still perception, ma. That is still sanya. You understand or not? If you say there is a knowing, the fact that you know it's a knowing, that in itself is sanya. So you're sanya, 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 sanya. Sanya is present. There has to be shankara. It is not the thought version, the thinking version, the volitional formation version. This shankara is what makes it possible for there to be sanya. So the aggregates are there. Okay? Okay. What's next?
next question. Hi, Sister Sylvia. During meditation, if there is no notion of self or soul, who or what is watching the breath? Is it the mind?
Watching. That's just watching. We are conditioned to, in our conditioning, okay, this is the first time I'm explaining something like this. In our conditioning, the underlying assumption is something must be doing something. There has to be responsibility. But it's an assumption. You know AI now, right? You just look at AI. AI has the capacity to reason now. Did you know that? It's learning, it is growing, it is reasoning. Correct? So if it reasons its way into self-awareness, then how will that happen? I don't know. But we are biological AI, ma. We are the biological, we're not the mechanical one, we're not the digital one. We are also biological AIs. So you are having experiences. Must there be someone experiencing? Or there's just experiences? Our mind is conditioned to say someone is doing it. It's a conditioning, it's a habit, it is an assumption. It's an assumption. Why must your assumption be right? Okay? Can we go on to the next one?
In the Satipatthana Sutta, under contemplation of the aggregates, one of the steps is to contemplate vijnana in terms of origin and ending. Since vijnana cannot stand alone, does it mean we will be observing vijnana together with the other aggregates?
Yes. Yes.
Okay, the same person. Oh, oh. The same person asks, is the Gandhava consciousness that is being used to describe rebirth the same as the aggregate vijnana? I've heard from a Dhamma lesson that when we die, our consciousness leaves our body and seeks rebirth. Is this correct?
This is attachment talking.
It's now down, right?
This is attachment talking. Whoever is saying that is attachment talking.
This one also.
Okay?
This. Hi, Sister Sylvia. Yesterday it was mentioned that during meditation, it seems like there is no thoughts. Today it is mentioned that we should observe Sankara in this state.
I already said Shankara is not just about volitional formation thinking. It's not. Shankara is coming together. So by the awareness in itself, the awareness in itself is a Shankara. Not just thoughts. If it was so simple as narratives and thoughts, that would have been the translation. That's why even Bhikkhu Bodhi struggles to find a good word for it.
Dear Sister Sylvia, in the zone of Samadhi, oh sorry, I didn't know. Next one. How this one you haven't asked. How is knowing of knowing conditional? Thank you. Knowing of knowing. That means, I guess, how is knowing that you know conditional?
Since when I say like that? How do I defend something I never said? Okay?
Okay.
Don't ask me question that I never said.
Sis Sylvia, can you share on the last thought moment? Is our consciousness moving in on the next form, or the 5 aggregates are moving to the next form? Thank you.
In the last thought consciousness, what will happen is here it ends, there it starts. When it arises, what arises? Vedana, Sanya, Shankara, everything comes out. If you are going to the Brahma realm, no form. When you are into all the other realms, there is form. Like that, lor. In the arising, your Vedana starts, your Sanya starts, Shankara starts, Vijnana starts. Okay? So your aggregates will start. When the aggregate starts. Okay?
Thank you, Cecilia. Is the dissolution of vijnana arising from the non-grasping of the aggregates synonymous with nibbana?
Sorry, repeat again.
Is the dissolution of vijnana arising from the non-grasping of the aggregates? That means the Arahant state, I think, synonymous with nibbana.
Nibbana is experienced already in this life. When there is no attachment to the every correction. At any one time, when there is absolutely no craving, no wanting, nothing, at that point, you have a taste of a version of Nibbana. At that point. So cessation of dukkha, when you are not having any craving, you experience a cessation of dukkha. Right at that point is a taste of Nibbana. But of course, the ultimate Nibbana, the one that the Buddha talks about, where the monks, they go into the forest and they really go for it. It is so that down to the underlying tendencies, there's no more holding. Down to that level. In which case, when there's no more holding whatsoever, the mind is completely free. And then that experience of Nibbana is that's it. That's the ultimate version. Okay? Then when this particular Arahant passes on, there is no more becoming. That's it. No more becoming. Okay?
Sylvia, in relation to the 5 aggregates, when does the state of samadhi arises?
They're all there. Oh. Samadhi also got all 5. Oh. Samadhi is not separate from aggregates. Your aggregates experience everything. So it's like the earlier question on mindfulness. They're all part of it. It's the 5 aggregates that will experience samadhi. It's experiencing the 5 aggregates, the samadhi, the mindfulness, the anger, everything is all experienced by the 5 aggregates. Within the 5 aggregates. They're not separate. It's your life. Okay? So when the sanya, not sanya, so in samadhi, you recognize that you are experiencing a state of samadhi. The sanya is there, lor. You recognize that this is quiet and peaceful and joyous. Vedana feels pleasant, very, very pleasant. It's all there. Your 5 aggregates is experiencing samadhi. Your 5 aggregates is experiencing mindfulness. 明白吗? The 5 aggregate is experiencing anger. 5 aggregates is experiencing jealousy. 5 aggregates is having worries. Okay, they're not separate. Yeah.
Second last question. In one of the slides, it is mentioned that cutting off the last leads to non-arising of the consciousness. That is the cutting off of the last, but not cutting off the 5 aggregates, right? So
Last is experienced by the 5 aggregates.
Mhm.
How do you know it's last? Sanya must know. And your Vedana is no longer, the Vedana is pleasure, a pleasant and pleasant neutral. There will be a sensation, there will be a recognition, there will be either thoughts or no thoughts. I mean, even no thoughts, you know that there's still the formation.
So how does that lead to non-arising of consciousness?
You must let go of all the aggregates. You are no longer attached. You are no longer attached to any of the aggregates.
Some more are coming.
Not attached to any aggregates, then there's no more.
No. I mean, new questions are coming in.
If they are strange questions, I'm not answering. Strange questions means your question sits on wrong view and wrong understanding. I have to start by correcting your view and correcting your understanding.
Kay said I missed his or her question. So is the ultimate goal that is Nibbana to cease all craving and grasping?
Yes.
Yes. If
I've
so,
repeated this many times.
yes. If so, can we say we will know that all our craving, grasping is completely gone when we no longer have any ill will or desire to compare?
Down to the underlying level.
Yeah.
So there's this group of self-proclaimed arahants in the time of the Buddha who traveled the distance to call and pay respect to the Buddha and announce the triumphant news that they are now arahants. The Buddha told Ananda, you tell them to go to the cemetery first. Don't come to me, I'm not seeing them. Ask them to go to the cemetery. So they merrily marched to the cemetery and they were horrified by the state of the bodies. So they knew they were not arahants. If you are in the state of if you're experiencing a state of conditions where there's no basis for you to get upset. Like you are a Sangha member, for instance, and you're the most exalted Sangha in the whole temple, and everyone fall over themselves to make sure you're okay, you're happy, and then you're bouncing around happily. There's no basis for you to realize that there is a problem. And then you may think that you're Arahant, because I have no craving, I've got no desire, I've got no anger, I'm the happiest person. And then one day, you go into another country which don't recognize monks, and then they ask you, like you go to a land where Sangha members are not respected, and your kapia is not there, and then you run into the security at the airport that says, "Hello, who are you? Who are you?" And then you get upset. That's when you realize that, oops, not finished. So the underlying tendencies, it goes all the way down. And the first one, the first factor to drop, is Sakaya Ditti. So no self, no more idea that there is such a thing as a self or a soul or a substance beyond the aggregates, outside of the aggregates. If you still perceive a self outside of the aggregates, I can assure you, you're not a Sotapanna. Okay? The day when you realize conditional arising, that's why it always has this phrase, when this is, that is. With the arising of this, that arises. When this is not, that is not. With the cessation of this, that ceases. This phrase, when there is no self, no sense, no recognition that the idea of self is an idea. When that happens, this phrase becomes very clear. You are conditionally a reason. That's how the Sotapanna will see the world, the reality. That's how he will see reality. Okay.
Okay, last question is a long question from Agnes. May I know your take about actual self versus ideal self in the line of helping profession? Many a times we are using these lens in the counseling session. Example, expectation of self versus others' expectation of us. Hence, this definitely shapes an impact on our experiences.
These are all attachment to self. No need to answer anymore. This is all attachment to self. Now, as a professional, helping people, unfortunately, you cannot use all these wonderful Buddhist guidance and teachings. Well, not in the way that we are free to use. So the emphasis, in my mind, should be on cultivation of the wholesome mental states. Don't go into the notion of self. First and foremost, whatever notion you have is impermanent, it's fleeting, it changes. You grow, you change. This is the way things are. You should focus more on what is skillful, wholesome, and will bring you joy. And anyone who leans towards wholesome mental states will feel good. When they feel good, they will feel meaningful and fulfilled. At that point, when they feel good, the self, the delusion of that self, but it's okay, you are in a secular setting, the self will feel affirmed. When you don't feel good, when do you not feel good? When unwholesome mental states are present. When these unwholesome mental states are present and you don't feel too good, you will go and affirm yourself, lor. you still don't feel good. Okay? So you ask me what should the focus be? I'll say focus on the mental states that is wholesome and skillful. As long as they have those wholesome mental states, they are fine. No, they will have that confidence, wholesome mental states. They will feel good, they will feel fine, they will have confidence. They are not so vulnerable to other people's pushiness and expectations. If they don't feel good, they don't feel fine, they feel a bit lost, that is where other people's affirmations are needed for them to feel good. This is not skillful, because generally most people you meet, they have expectations and desires. You are looking for affirmation from people who are not pure, with defilements. How can people with defilements be very good for generally others? Because there are good days and there are bad days, ma. 我们也是这样啊. We got good days and bad days. So if you see affirmation, where do you go? Affirmation from Buddha only, or the Arahants. That's why the Buddha says, the censure of the wise. He never say censure of popular vote. Look out for censure by the wise. Wise will always be noble. In the Buddha's estimation, the wise are always noble. They are the saprisa. Their view matters, because their view will tell you you're on track or off track. The rest of the world don't matter, because the rest of the world are driven by loba dosa moha. Then like that, how? You are going to let someone with loba dosa moha affirm you for your confidence? Not helpful, lor. Not helpful. Okay.
Thank you,
Okay.
Sylvia. That's the end of the questions.
Okay. Now, I mean, this is just a reminder. I don't want to go too much into it. Do come and join us for this walk. You will find it a very meaningful experience. Because for one Sunday, come and do something very meaningful. If you are not already doing, if you're Eileen, this is optional.
Eileen is in Perth.
Optional. If you're not Eileen and really Sunday is, you want to find some meaning, come and join us. And this is a category. You're joining us, you're joining the team. That's how you are. Please take down this number. You're joining an existing team. This is the code. This is the number. Okay. I'm done. I cannot talk anymore.
Thank you, Cecilia. Wait, you hold it. Some want to take photo or something like that.
Okay.
Or take the code U0015X, small x, I think. Capital U,
U0015X. 00.
small x.
Yeah. Chitawana.
Probably if you type one, the other one will appear, right?
No.
No.
It doesn't appear. You got to type separately.
Okay.
There are many teams, many teams. Don't walk wrongly, okay? Join this team. You want to bring your family, just go ahead, bring your family. Bring your friends, bring your family, that's okay. Come and join. It's like a carnival. They will have food stalls and ice cream stores and all, but you must pay lah. Because they're raising funds for the hospice patients. So think of it like if you have family and children and little ones, they want to go and play at Marina Barrage, just bring them along. Then after the walk, we will do our sharing of merits.
Okay.
Okay?
And the donation slide, the last one, if you all want to donate.
Oh, I didn't bring in the donation slide today. Because I thought, no, you go into the registration
that-
form.
Yeah, the registration form, or I think you go to the website. Should be able to
Yeah,
do.
you go to this donation, this registration form, you go up to the lines up there, then it will show you donate to a team or something. And you can do it from there. Today, I only want to encourage you all to come and join us.
You can donate to Team Jetavana.
Yes, to Team Jetawana.
Yeah. They go by teams. Okay,
Yes.
we are done. And sharing of merits.
Yes. So just one last one.
Okay.
Next week. Next week, okay?
Yeah,
next
next week no class, so it's next week,
Yes.
the following week.
Okay. Thank you very much, everyone.
Dedication of merits. Okay, let us invite all sentient beings to participate in our acquired merits. Etta vata cha amhehi sambatang punya sampadang sabbe deva anumodantu sabba sampatti siddhya. Etta vata cha amhehi sambatang punya sampadang sabbe bhuta anumodantu sabba sampatti siddhya. Etta vata cha amhehi sambatang punya sampadang sabbe satta anumodantu sabba sampatti siddhya. Let us bring our departed relatives and friends to our minds and dedicate these merits to them. Idang menyati nang hotu sukita hontu nyatayo. Idang menyati nang hotu sukita hontu nyatayo. Idang menyati nang hotu sukita hontu nyatayo. Okay, let us pay respects to the triple gem. Arahang Sama Sambuddho Bhagawa Buddhang Bhagawantang Abhivademi. Swakato Bhagavata Dhammo Dhammang Namasami. Supatipano Bhagavato Sawaka Sangho Sanghang Namami. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. Cecilia.